There's 6,000 shipwrecks in the Great Lakes, maybe 10,000, but there's one that pretty much everybody on the Great Lakes knows about.
Very upsetting to see this.
The immediate concern is to recover survivors.
Yes.
My dad was on the Edmund Fitzgerald. I just remember hearing it on the news, saying, "Mom, I'm scared."
A freighter carrying a crew of 29 disappeared on Lake Superior during a severe storm last night, and so far, no survivors have been found.
As somebody who sailed on it, as a crew member, I want to know.
By the time the Fitz got into the worst of the conditions, there were winds of around 55 miles per hour, and those waves were 25 to 30 feet high.
More storms than any other ship. You know, this is a ship that was known for pushing big gales, a captain who believed he could get away with it.
You see Whitefish Point right there? 17 nautical miles from Whitefish Point is where the Edmund Fitzgerald went down.
That's the last time I talked with him. He said he was holding his own, and that's the last time I lost contact after that.
Now you're going to go pull up anchor and go back out in 30-foot waves, try to find a ship you know is already gone. And that is the sailor's code right there. Edmund Fitzgerald was a real person. He was the CEO of Northwestern Mutual Insurance in Milwaukee, big concern. But his 5 uncles had all been Great Lakes captains. His grandfather was one of the great Great Lakes shipbuilders. So it's in the blood. And he decides in the mid-50s, near the end of his career at Northwestern Mutual, I want to build the greatest ship that's ever sailed the Great Lakes. And they do. And they built it right here at the Great Lakes Engineering Work right down the river in Zug Island, basically.
They came up with a production welder that could triple the time that they could weld, and they also built giant modules that 3 different companies could build along the slip, and then the crane would lift them together, and even the shipyard workers were like, I couldn't believe how fast that went together.
On June 7th, 1958, they launched the greatest ship in the history of the Great Lakes.
The Fitzgerald was really, in a lot of ways, designed to break records. It was designed to be fast. When it was launched, it was the largest ship. Even a Detroit newspaper called it the largest man-made object dropped into the Great Lakes.
Huge crowd came, though, because they were aware this was something special.
But it takes Mrs. Fitzgerald 3 tries to smash the champagne on the nose of the ship. That's considered a bad omen. And then it takes him a long time to finally squeeze the boat into the river, really, Detroit River, much longer than expected. It slams across the other side, it smashes the other side, smashes back. One guy from Toledo was so shocked by all this, he had a heart attack and died. It's a bit of an ominous day when they launched the ship. The Edmund Fitzgerald was as long, almost exactly, as the tallest of the Renaissance Center buildings. Enough taconite to build 7,000 cars per shipload. That's how much they were carrying. And they did that 50 times every season. It is the longest, it's got the biggest cargo holds. It's also the most luxurious, amazingly. Outfitted by J.L. Hudson here in Detroit. It spared no expense, carpeting, tile floors in the bathrooms, air conditioning, and TVs. These things in 1958 you wouldn't find in most hotels.
This was the flagship. Any big mucky-muck from National Steel would be invited for a summer cruise with the best cook, the best captain, air-conditioned comfort lounges. It was all fitted by J.L. Hudson of Detroit. This was our representative for a ship on the Great Lakes. And there was immense pride for the people who sailed on it, too. If you got on the Fitzgerald, that was a big deal. You'd think they were going on a European cruise or the Mediterranean or something with all the stuff they brought with them. They were usually executives of companies that Ogilvy Norton did business with, Bethlehem Steel, Armco Steel, that kind of thing. And they were executives and their families. And they didn't pay a dime for the privilege of riding on the Fitzgerald. But it was great PR for the company. Yeah, the towel is embroidered with the name STR, Streamer Edmund Fitzgerald. And this
These were the linens that were in the guest staterooms. And then after their 5-day trip, when they were loading up to leave, somehow these often found their way into their luggage as a souvenir.
This is what you go home to your country club and brag about, and the Fitz knew that. They had Polaroid cameras waiting for you in the VIP quarters, in the recreation lounge, in the viewing lounge and so on, for you to take Polaroid photos, to take them home and show off at your country club back home.
She was a tourist attraction, and her reputation preceded her. I remember going out on deck if I was off duty, if I was on afternoon break and we were going through the Sioux, just to see the crowd on the shore and wave at them, and they're taking pictures of everything that moves or doesn't move.
The Fitz was the celebrity. There's no question about it. One reason was Captain Pulser, the captain before Fitzgerald. He was a bit of a ham. He loved getting on the bullhorn and saying, "Rise and shine, campers," going past the campground. He'd come out dressed as Santa Claus in July and throw candy at the kids at the Sioux Locks. A bit of a ham, but that was part of the whole glamour, if you will, of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
We're thrillionaires, so we know thrills. And with exciting perks like Reward Box, FanDuel Casino's Rewards Club makes any day feel like a holiday.
Calling all thrillionaires. FanDuel Casino.
When you're dealing with water in your basement, it may be a sign of a larger problem. So don't just get it repaired, get protected. At US Waterproofing, we're not only experts at sealing foundation cracks, we're a complete solution to keep your basement dry. From replacing ineffective gutters and downspouts to raising settled concrete, US Waterproofing has provided customized solutions for over 500,000 happy customers. Schedule your free consultation today at uswaterproofing.com and enjoy no interest if paid in full in 1 year. US Waterproofing. A better basement starts with us.
So it's an ordinary pizza.
Oh, no.
It's not ordinary.
No. It's extraordinary.
It's here, the Jets Ultimate Pepperoni, with traditional, bold, and our all-new shredded pepperoni, all on top of the world's thickest, crispiest, cheesy-to-the-edge crust. For a limited time, get this pepperoni masterpiece for $15.99. This isn't pizza, it's Jets.
Success isn't a single destination. It's a journey. Because sometimes you have to fail before you can fly. Sit down to stand up and work to turn a local idea into a global phenomenon. At the Henry Ford, we know to move forward, we have to look back. And we believe each of us has the power to make a difference for all of us. The Henry Ford. Discover, dream, do.
New FanDuel Casino players get 500 bonus spins to play across 3 Huff and Puff games. So come on over to the home of Huff and Puff. Download FanDuel Casino now.
My one regret, being the son of a Laker, is that my mother assumed the burden of raising 4 children, 4 boys, virtually by herself.
Why do we not know the sailors? The answer is they're not home. They're on a boat. 9 months out of the year, they're sailing the Great Lakes. So even if they lived next to you, you wouldn't see them. They're not running your PTO or your Rotary Club or your Little League baseball team. They're on the lakes.
Your mom, that must have been a lot.
Yes, and Mom did not drive, and she was raising 7 kids. So, yeah, kids at school didn't understand, why my dad wasn't around. And I said, well, he's got a job, just like everybody, most dad, he just happened to work on a ship and not on the farm or in factory or that was just his job.
When my dad was home for the short time in the winter that the lakes were frozen, he was lost. He didn't take a part-time job or anything. He just sat around the house. He couldn't wait to get back out on the water. So consequently, the 4 of us never got to know him as closely as we would have liked. He took care of us. He made sure we were well cared for and well provided for, sent me to college, all that stuff. So, but I would have liked more of his time just to be with him.
Pay was very good back then because the unions did a good job keeping the pay up. A lot of these guys could get overtime. A deckhand at age 22 could make 3 or 4 times what a teacher made in their hometown. So it was a good deal. And these guys did well. They could afford a cabin on Lake Huron. They could afford to put their kids through the state school system here in Michigan with 15 state universities. The American dream was embodied in these people, and it really worked.
As it turned out, someone had left the ship who worked in the galley, and they needed a porter, essentially to take care of our passengers. I was in class at Bowling Green and was called out of the class, took the call, and they said, if you can be in Toledo by 5 o'clock at the docks, the job is yours. I was in such a hurry to get to the ship. So the only photo I have of me on board the Fitzgerald is the one that shows me standing at the rail in my Cook whites and my black dress shoes. I felt like I was really doing something important. Again, I was working hard to make my father proud of me, but I was making pretty good money while doing it by 1960s standards. For a kid 19 years old doing fulfilling work like that and meeting these remarkable crewmates, each of whom had a story to tell, a fascinating life. But in the pecking order, deckhands and porters, we were about the same level, not very high. Along about halfway through my season on the Fitz, Dad was transferred over to the Fitz to become chief engineer. In other words, the second best job in the company. The day my dad was transferred over and came aboard, he came on board looking for me, knowing I was working in the galley. And he had just come aboard from shore where all this iron ore dust collects. So he had it all over his shoes. And I'm mopping in the galley. And he walks in looking for his son. And I see red boot prints every couple feet as he approaches. And I yelled at my own dad. I said, "Get out of my galley." And he kind of smiled and he backed off a little bit. And I always joke that it was the only time in Great Lakes maritime history that a lowly porter told off the chief engineer and lived to work another day. But he got a big kick out of that. And so that was the most fun I think I ever had.
Blaine Wilhelm, handsome guy, oiler, was scared of the engineering test, was about to take it again in the next off-season. He is the father of Heidi Braven.
You know, I was only 12 when he died. I don't have a huge amount of memories of him, but I know he liked to read. He liked to read. He read a lot. One of our favorite pictures we have, that Mom and Dad are sitting in the backyard, just sitting in the grass with their backs to the camera, just sharing the newspaper. When he was at home, he was home. He was very much there. There's a lake near where we grew up that I found out years later him and his siblings and cousins and used to go to a lot of times. So in the summertime when he was home on vacation, he would take us out there a lot. But first we had to go pick blueberries so he could have blueberry pie when he got home. I didn't really know a whole lot. All I know was he worked in the engine room, how they just kept the engine running and making sure they were greased.
In the engine room, the oilers and the wipers had very tough jobs. And down in the engine room, if it's 90 degrees outside, it's 120. You don't put your hands on metal without gloves, or else you leave your skin there. These are guys who were not supposed to get along. The engine crew usually does not get along with the pilot house on most ships. You got 3/4 are World War II vets, and 1/4 are guys who don't want to go to Vietnam. The long hair, the lamb chops, and all that. They don't usually get along in 75. These guys got along famously. Captain Ernest McSorley was considered simply the best captain on the Great Lakes. He was considered the best in rough weather. That matters, obviously. He delivered more and faster than anyone else. He was very aggressive in the wheelhouse. He never once backed off and laid anchor during a storm. He was known to go, go, go. McSorley gets a bonus once he's passed his quota, and he's passed it. And his wife, Nellie, was in a healthcare facility, I think, for cancer. It's all secondhand at that point. So he was trying to get enough money to pay for her health care after he retired. That was going to be his last trip. Maybe 5 of his colleagues' last trip. This is their retirement run. I'm not making that up. It's crazy. So one more trip, not to be greedy, to pay for his wife's health care going forward. So this is a tack-on trip.
Hey, Dad, I gotta come clean. I only paid for a Hyundai Tucson.
Enjoy the new car. The Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Get 0% APR for 60 months, plus 0 payments for 90 days on select Hyundai vehicles. Visit your local Hyundai dealer today.
We're at 19! We're at 19!
We're at 19.
Boom! DraftKings Casinos combining two things I love. Touchdowns and bonus rounds. We're going deep with 1,000 slots and counting. We're talking spin moves everywhere. Jackpot, baby.
New players play $5 and get 500 spins on your choice of cash eruption slots, plus the first day replay up to 1,000 in credits. The crown is yours.
Sign up for the 43rd Annual Strategic Staffing Solutions Turkey Trot on Woodward Avenue Thanksgiving morning with a 10K, 5K, and 1-mile run. Join one of the nation's largest Thanksgiving races and be part of the magic of America's Thanksgiving Parade presented by Gardner White. Participants of all ages receive a commemorative medal and race shirt and run the S3 Turkey Trot in your favorite holiday costume. Proceeds benefit the Parade Company Foundation. Register today at theparade.org/turkey trot.
Officer, you see this Hyundai Santa Fe? Guess how much I paid for it.
Enjoy the new car.
The Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Get 0% APR for 60 months, plus 0 payments for 90 days on select Hyundai vehicles. Visit your local Hyundai dealer today.
When you wake up, the holiday season is getting closer and closer. Have you started shopping yet?
November is the best month of the year to shop if you're looking to save.
From traditional tech gadgets to one of the most popular kitchen accessories, we're going to show you some of the best deals to look out for in November. A list sure to give you a head start tomorrow morning on Local 4. Expect more.
Stories to help save you money. Local 4. Expect more.
Talk to experienced Great Lakes sailors who've done both the Atlantic Ocean and the Great Lakes. John Hayes, 12 years in the Atlantic Ocean, 23 years in the Great Lakes. He said the Great Lakes are far more dangerous than the Atlantic Ocean, and it's not even close. And anybody who's done both will tell you that.
This area has come to be known as the shipwreck coast. In the area of Whitefish Point, there's roughly 200 shipwrecks just in this area alone. So it can be dangerous any time of year.
The weather can change in an instant, and everything on the Great Lakes is wind-driven.
Northwest winds up to 5 miles per hour.
These are the old-fashioned radars. That's all they had back then.
Flood watch in effect until 8 p.m. this evening.
And you relied on these. These are the two things that the Edmund Fitzgerald lacked that night. Both the long and the short radars were knocked out.
It would just be a text forecast, and then they would be on their way. And then as conditions changed during the voyage, either they would be radioed information or they wouldn't know. And so you have these storms now with this Arctic air feeding in, but you have the relatively warm waters below. That air is warmer. That creates a more unstable environment, and it causes these storms to explode. And it's a very common phenomenon here in the fall. And the peak period is those first 2 weeks of November.
On Sunday, November 9th, when the Fitzgerald leaves, it is 70 degrees in Duluth. It's never 70 degrees in Duluth on November 9th. And they're in T-shirts. Guys are playing golf. A great day. That's bad news.
So here we are, 7 a.m., Monday, November 10th, 1975. This is the day that the Edmund Fitzgerald sank. Notice that that low has moved from Kansas all the way to the Great Lakes in just 24 hours. And notice these lines here. These are isobars, lines of constant pressure. All of these extra lines, that shows the explosive development of this low as it came into the Great Lakes. Again, that classic time of year where these storms just blossom over the Great Lakes because of the warmth of those waters. The storm continued north through the day. The wind shifted to the north and then the northwest, and the strongest wind was on the backside of this low. This is the moment, and this is the storm that sank the Edmund Fitzgerald.
So both ships, the Anderson and the Fitzgerald, start ahead of the lakes. They sail together the northern route. Instead of straight over Keweenaw, Whitefish Bay, they're going north for the protection of the shore and the winds. Here's where they turn down south. The red line is the Fitzgerald. They went around Michipicoten Island. Now the question is, they sailed too close to Caribou and 6 Fathom Shoal. If they did, they might have bottomed out there, damaged the hull, taken on water, and that's where the list might have started. By taking 14 more hours to go that direction instead of the straight shot across, you've given the storm a 14-hour head start.
It was a bad call in a storm that went way faster than they thought, so that the wind direction flipped on them as they got way up by Michipicoten. They were in the eye of the storm, and when it flipped on them, now it was building from Fort William or Thunder Bay, Ontario, the full length of Lake Superior. So now you have 30-foot waves that are meeting them before they can get to Whitefish, and they thought they could get there faster, and they didn't.
So these guys are very aggressive. They're very unaccustomed to sharing anything on the radio, and yet McSorley does. He said, I've got a starboard list. This is now serious. And he's confessing to him that I'm in trouble, basically, and lets on more than he normally would. And Anderson picks up on it and knows they have to help. He decides to wait for an hour, basically, for the Anderson to catch up. This is a rational decision because he's lost his long radar, his short radar, the lighthouse at Whitefish Point. The light is out at Whitefish Point. That's the one lighthouse every sailor wants to see. And even the radio beacon that signals you where you are from the lighthouse, that is also out. So he has no radar, no lighthouse, no beacon. He's blind. So he wisely waits, in some ways, for the Anderson to catch up to guide him in. But while that's happening, his ship is filling with water. And all he needed was one more hour, that hour, to get to Whitefish Bay. He's talking to the Anderson, and the Anderson says, how are you making out with those problems of yours? And Captain McSorley says, and I quote, we are holding our own. A classic stoic captain, not going to complain, not going to panic. We're going to be okay. That's what he thinks.
One vessel was in radio contact. Have they been able to give you any information?
No. In fact, the commanding officer of the vessel was more surprised than we were, I believe. He was in radio communications with the vessel just before it went down, and they didn't report any immediate difficulty.
He comes up on deck, he looks for the Fitzgerald, and Cooper cannot find him.
What time was the last time that you had any cause or that you noticed you had the Fitzgerald in front of you, over? 1900, he was approximately 15 miles from the high hump at Crisp Point. That's when I was talking to him. He was 15 miles from the land. I asked him how he was making out with his problem. He said he lost those vents and he had a lift, and he said he was holding his own. The last time I talked with him, he said he was holding his own, and that's the last time I lost contact after that. I estimated the waves for some of the big ones between 20 and 25 feet.
Maybe the Anderson's radars weren't quite working up to snuff after that storm. But in any case, Captain Cooper did keep radioing the Coast Guard. Eventually, the Coast Guard did ask the Anderson to turn around and head back out into the lake, which is not something I think that Captain Cooper was very excited about.
You think you could cut it out and go back and take a look in the area, over? I'll go back and take a look, but God, I'm afraid that I'm going to take a hell of a beating out there on it.
Cooper said there's no way he could have stopped the Anderson to pick up, people in a lifeboat. He couldn't have done it, but he went back because that was the spirit of what sailors do.
There was another ship, the William Clay Ford, went out as well.
We're walking into the pilot house of the William Clay Ford. So that night, November 10th, 1975, Don Erickson is the captain of the William Clay Ford. They've already anchored, and then the Coast Guard asked him to go back out.
We had about 8 or 10 ships anchored in the bay. We talking to Anderson, says, well, he might go back out there, and so I'm thinking, well, if my son was on that ship, which I knew a lot of people on that ship, if my son was on that ship, I sure want some of my friends to come out and look for my son.
And now you're gonna go pull up anchor and go back out in 30-foot waves to try to find a ship you know is already gone. And that is the sailor's code right there.
Hey, Dad, I gotta come clean. I only paid for a Hyundai Tucson.
Enjoy the new car.
The Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Get 0% APR for 60 months, plus 0 payments for 90 days on select Hyundai vehicles. Visit your local Hyundai dealer today.
Red 19! Red 19!
Red 19.
Boom! DraftKings Casinos combining two things I love. Touchdowns and bonus rounds. We're going deep with 1,000 slots and counting. We're talking spin moves everywhere. Jackpot, baby!
Get a free chance at $3,000 every day in credits. DraftKings Casino. The crown is yours.
So it's an ordinary pizza.
Oh, no.
It's not ordinary.
No. This extra ordinary.
It's here, the Jets Ultimate Pepperoni, with traditional, bold, and our all-new shredded pepperoni, all on top of the world's thickest, crispiest, cheesy-to-the-edge crust. For a limited time, get this pepperoni masterpiece for $15.99. This isn't pizza, it's Jets.
Thank you for holding.
Stuck on hold for hours without an end in sight. But you're spinning your favorite slot, so things are looking bright. Golden Nugget Online Casino, thousands of slots in the mix. Perfect because your scheduled window is 8 a.m. to 6.
Your hold time is 52 minutes.
Just say representative.
New players play $5 and get 500 total spins on a featured game. Make any moment golden.
Officer, you see this Hyundai Santa Fe? Guess how much I paid for it.
Enjoy the new car.
The Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Get 0% APR for 60 months, plus 0 payments for 90 days on select Hyundai vehicles. Visit your local Hyundai dealer today.
Very upsetting to see this. You give us a progress report as of this hour, Lieutenant?
Well, we're continuing the search. We've got 2 vessels presently out there searching the area. We have 2 helicopters, and we haven't found any additional debris from last night.
Smaller vessels got into the act the next morning. There was a Canadian fish tug that ended up, a commercial fishing vessel that ended up going out and searching as well. They found a number of the life jackets, life rafts. Eventually were able to see where the lifeboats were floating about, which were recovered by other ships.
Well, we actually heard on the nightly news.
A freighter carrying a crew of 29 disappeared on Lake Superior during a severe storm last night, and so far no survivors have been found. The freighter, the Edmund Fitzgerald, was transporting iron ore when it ran into high winds and 25-foot waves.
I just remember hearing it on the news, and then my mother, she sent us to bed, and I was upstairs, and I couldn't sleep, so I came back downstairs. And I remember her being on the phone, trying to get anybody to tell her anything, and she couldn't get through to anybody. She even had the operator break into somebody's phone conversation. And I just remember curled up in a chair saying, "Mom, I'm scared." The next time period is kind of a blur.
I kind of was half listening to Harry Reasoner on the news, and he's saying a Great Lakes vessel has been lost and is feared gone on Lake Superior.
An air and sea search is continuing for possible survivors of the Edmund Fitzgerald, a 729-foot ore carrier, which apparently broke apart and sunk last night on Lake Superior.
And I remember what a crude graphic they had. It looked almost like a kid's cartoon drawing of a ship tilted and sinking. And my heart sank along with it. I realized that if that ship is gone and nobody got off, then my uncle's gone. I fully expected the Fitzgerald to be out there. Now, I knew my dad wasn't on the Fitz at that time, but I knew my uncle was.
Even though the Coast Guard now considers the Fitzgerald lost, officers continue to plot the area where debris was sighted in a search for possible survivors. Officials, however, say it would be impossible to live more than 4 hours in the 49-degree waters of Lake Superior.
Ralph G. Walton, oiler.
If you look at the ship's bell that is on display at Whitefish Point Museum, it says Ralph G. Walton. And until he died, I did not know his first name was Ralph, because growing up, he was always Uncle Grant. He only wanted to be known by his middle name. And it was only when he died that I realized his name was Ralph. Uncle Grant was what unified us all. He was our reason to get together. He was the guy whose personality drove it all. He was one of the happiest people I've ever met. I mean, laughing all the time, always had a joke. My dad was 55 at the time of the accident. He had lost his brother, and he had lost his love for what he was doing, and he retired. He left the lakes. I couldn't believe it. From a man who could not wait during the off-season to get back to the ship and fit out for a new season, to a guy who wanted nothing to do with it.
Blaine H. Wilhelm, oiler.
One of my older sisters was due to give birth any day. She did not know about Dad until after my niece was born on the 14th, because the doctors were afraid, you know, that it would shoot her blood pressure up and cause problems. So she was stationed in Dover, Delaware at the time, and she never, like I said, she called us to tell us a baby was born, and we're like, oh, that's great, kind of going, really awkward because nobody told her yet.
BetMGM is where you leave ordinary for something a little more interesting. With your favorite games, like The Price is Right and Rakin' Bacon. Or in the center of it all with live dealer classics. Don't forget to tip your dealer, because interesting leads to exciting, which opens the door to extraordinary. Make it Vegas almost anywhere. BetMGM Casino. Make it legendary.
I finally admitted that I have memory and thinking issues. My doctor said it was early Alzheimer's disease. With getting the early diagnosis and treatment, I'm doing all I can. And now, with Kisunla, I see a glimmer of hope.
Here comes the sun. Kisunla is an anti-amyloid treatment for early symptomatic Alzheimer's disease, proven to slow the progression of the disease. Kisunla can cause amyloid-related imaging abnormalities, or ARIA, which is temporary bleeding and or swelling in the brain. Your doctor may test for a gene that raises its risk. ARIA doesn't usually cause symptoms, but can be serious and fatal. Symptoms may include headache, confusion, dizziness, vision changes, nausea, difficulty walking, or seizures. Tell your doctor if you take medications to reduce blood clots. Do not take if you have a known allergy to Kisunla or any of its ingredients. Serious infusion-related and allergic reactions can occur. These are not all of the possible side effects. Call your doctor right away if you experience any side effects.
I'm doing all I can for my Alzheimer's, and that gives me hope.
Here comes the... Visit Kisunla.com to learn about evaluation and testing to see if Kisunla may be right for you.
The 43rd Annual Strategic Staffing Solutions Turkey Trot is back. Run the 10K, 5K, or 1 mile and get an official race shirt and medal. Gobble, gobble, and get going. Register at theparade.org/turkey trot and help support the Parade Company.
And I think we all have to acknowledge, rightfully so, that if it wasn't for Gordon Lightfoot and his song, his excellent song, there really would not be the awareness of the Edmund Fitzgerald that we have today.
The legend lives on from the Chippewa on down at the big lake they call Gitchagumi.
Gordon Lightfoot's music speaks to the North Country. It's about the water, the woods, lost loves, broken hearts. I've been performing as Gordon Lightfoot live in concert for 17 years.
Gordon Lightfoot, being someone who grew up in the Great Lakes, he knew about shipping to a certain degree. He knew it wasn't an easy life. And I think he also felt that that story probably got a bit of a short shrift, so to speak.
The way the song came about is very unlikely. He was working on an Irish sea shanty the night the ship went down. He was in his attic at Toronto. He was a great sailor himself. That night, when it's howling in Toronto, he thought, man, it must be hell on Superior tonight.
He told me that he went downstairs to get a cup of coffee, the news was coming out, and it talked about this ship that had gone down in Lake Superior. But about a week later, he saw an article in Newsweek magazine, and that told some things about the ship. And it wasn't a cover story or a feature, it was just a blurb in a news index. But it started out by talking about the legend of the Chippewa tribe that said that the lake never gave up its dead. Gord took the words right from that article and wrote that song.
The lake, it is said, never gives up her dead when the skies of November turn gloomy.
But as he did this in the fall of 1975, they were preparing to do an album called Summertime Dream. In between takes of Spanish Moss or Summertime Dream or Never Too Close, some of these great songs that appeared on that, he's still playing around with those chords. And the guys in the band start saying, you know, what is that? Well, it's a shipwreck song. What shipwreck? Well, the ship that went down in Lake Superior.
And he's not even rehearsed it yet. And they finished the album in 3.5 days. But they're paying for 5 days for the studio. And the producer says, why don't you try that song you've been screwing around with? He says, no, it's not ready. He's very self-conscious about this. He wants to honor the sailors, does not want to seem cheap. The guy says, look, man, I'm charging you for this 1.5 days, whether you like it or not. So the band is here, the producers are here, you might as well give it a shot.
So in the second verse, Gordon nodded, Barry came in with the drums, and they played through, and they finished the song. And Terry told me that I said, sheesh, that thing gave me the shivers down my spine. And Rick said, I think you've got a hit here, Gord. You know, the record company ought to hear this.
So they tried again, not as good. They tried again, not as good. They tried it the next day, not as good, not as good, not as good. They tried it a month later, not as good. The song you hear on the radio is the first time any group ever played it. Not a first take, first time ever.
The guys in the band had never played it before, and they'd never heard the words. And of course became the #1 song in 1976 in Canada. It hit the charts at #1. #2 in our country, by the way.
In a musty old hall in Detroit, they prayed in the Maritime Sailors Cathedral.
That's Mariners Church, of course. When he meets Reverend Ingalls not too long after, Reverend Ingalls is very respectful about this. But he said, look around. Look at this place. It's not a musty old hall, is it? He goes, you're right. And all concerts after that, he said, a rustic old hall.
Ruth Hudson, Bruce Hudson's mother, who said that she had a bone to pick with Gordon. And it was about the fact that her son Bruce was in charge of the hatch covers. And there was that line in the song that said, you know, at 7 p.m., a main hatchway caved in. He said, fellas, it's been good to know you. It made it sound like her son Bruce was the cause of the sinking of the ship. Gordon felt terrible. I mean, he didn't write this lyric to point the finger at somebody. And so he did change the line, you know, and live in concert. Can't change the record. At 7 p.m., it grew dark. It was then. He said, fellas, it's been good to know you. And that's the way the family enjoys hearing that today.
At Whitefish Point, when the families were up there for the memorial, he'd come up the day before purposely to meet with the families and talk to them, and then he'd leave as to not distract from the memorial.
Everybody who lost a loved one that night loved Gordon Lightfoot from that point forward. I mean, he reached out to all of us.
The last time I saw him, I thanked him for what he had done for me and everything, and I just said, you're really doing well. He said, Michael, I just want to leave a clean campsite. I thought that was really a neat way to put it. You know, isn't that what we all want, is to leave a clean campsite in life? And I think Gordon did do that.
Does anyone know where the love of God goes when the waves turn the minutes to hours?
We're Thrillionaires, so we know thrills. And with exciting perks like Reward Box, FanDuel Casino's Rewards Club makes any day feel like a holiday.
Calling all Thrillionaires. FanDuel Casino.
Make the most of your season during the Kia Season of New Traditions sales event. Gift yourself some savings and visit your local Kia dealer today. Get 0.9% APR for up to 60 months plus $750 retail bonus cash on specially tagged 2025 Telluride, Sorento, and Sportage vehicles.
The cold weather is coming fast, which means time's running out to get this wall-side exclusive, never-before offer. Half off every wall-side window, plus 81 months, no interest, or an extra 18% off for cash. Get your windows installed before the holidays. Installation spots are filling fast. Make your appointment today. This is your last chance. Half off every window, plus 81 months, no interest, or an extra 18% off. Wallside.
When you're dealing with water in your basement, it may be a sign of a larger problem, so don't just get it repaired, get protected. At US Waterproofing, we're not only experts at sealing foundation cracks, we're a complete solution to keep your basement dry. From replacing ineffective gutters and downspouts to raising settled concrete, US Waterproofing has provided customized solutions for over 500,000 happy customers. Schedule your free consultation today at uswaterproofing.com and enjoy no interest if paid in full in 1 year. US Waterproofing, a better basement starts with us.
Make the most of your season during the Kia Season of New Traditions sales event. Gift yourself some savings and visit your local Kia dealer today. Get 0.9% APR for up to 60 months plus $750 retail bonus cash on specially tagged 2025 Telluride, Sorrento, and Sportage vehicles.
New FanDuel Casino players get 500 bonus spins to play across 3 Huff and Puff games. So come on over to the home of Huff and Puff. Download FanDuel Casino now.
The most controversial dive was Fred Shannon's in the mid-90s.
He got a 2-person camera crew, myself and Tom, to film everything. He took all the money that was supposed to build his wife's dream home, $70,000, and rented one of the most famous little submarines on, really in the ocean, the Delta. Bob Ballard had just taken it to Lusitania. He shipped it all the way up to the Sioux, and we took the yellow submarine down to see the Edmund Fitzgerald. Then all of a sudden the name Edmund Fitzgerald came across our starboard windows, and it was bigger than the windows. So it was huge, it was cracked, it looked like it had been destroyed, and it was unbelievable. So I went from nervous to extremely excited that I was on the most famous shipwreck on the Great Lakes. And then we came up around the bow, and all of the canvas that they used to keep the water off the deck was hanging like blankets out the window. And I was like, oh my God, this is a grave site. So it was a roller coaster, really excited, then just tragically sad that 29 guys had died. There were 2 family members who were very outspoken about, you know, I think the only reason we got to dive is because we had a restriction. No putting cameras into the portholes, no going into the broken windows, no putting lighting inside the shipwreck. They wanted us to avoid seeing anything that they felt was inside, and that was the crew. What they didn't know was one of the crew members were outside. And we found a body. What were we supposed to do with it? If we didn't film it, they'd say you never found anything. We were in a catch-22, and as a journalist, I don't hide stuff. I put it out there and I say, this is what we think, and there's people who think it's not even someone from the Fitzgerald. Not one close-up of that ever turned up anywhere. The National Enquirer wanted to buy that footage from Shannon. He could have bought his wife's dream home that she never got, but to his defense, never sold that footage of close-ups where you could see the guy's face, and we never tried to identify that person out of respect for the family.
As the Fred Shannon dive, that motivated the families to take action, to have it declared a grave site, and no more dives can be made.
To its credit, the Canadian government declared it all a grave site, and that's not allowed to go down, and that's as it should be. Let the men rest in peace.
At this point, you're not going to learn anything. It doesn't matter. I've known numerous family members, and we all pretty much have the same consensus. At this point, leave them be. It's a graveyard. Don't touch it.
I could never, in my mind, fathom losing a loved one and not being able to recover them. My grandfather was sheriff of Muskegon, was killed in a car crash, but we got to bury him. So I understood the public loss very well, but I can't understand the depth of my loved one is still down there and now cameras can go see them. That's very ethically challenging for me, but as a journalist as well, it's part of the story. So that's been my eternal struggle.
Are there any theories as of this time as to what really happened to the Fitzgerald out there?
Well, there are any number of theories.
Well, it's purely speculation, but consider the possibility of the ship broaching to and possibly capsizing, or else just breaking in half and splitting apart.
The only theory I'm willing to virtually dismiss out of hand is the idea that the deckhands had failed their jobs of latching 1,400 C-clamps, basically, on these 21 cargo hatches. It's a hell of a job. It takes about an hour with 3 guys working full blast, and it's rigorous. But I talked to 2 guys who served in the ship that year. They said there's no way in November McSorley or McCarthy, the first mate, would ever let them leave port without all 1,400 dogged or latched before they left. And you wouldn't latch a third or a half. You latch all of them or only do the corners. All right, the corners are a small percentage of the total. That's a nice July day, you do that. All right, so if you latched the ones we've seen, they're all latched. I don't buy that one at all.
The Fitz crew was the very best of the best. I don't believe that notion for a second that they forgot to tighten the hatches. In November, of course they would. That would just, it goes with the job.
And Anderson is convinced that the Fitzgerald in front of them went directly over 6 Fathoms Shoal. If it did, it almost certainly bottomed out and did damage to the hull of the ship. And that's how you start taking on water the rest of your trip.
Every architect said it would have sank at Caribou if it hit bottom there. So for people to tell me it ran aground, that was a really convenient excuse for the shipping companies who were getting immense pressure from the Coast Guard to carry less cargo in the winter. So the shipping companies all went, oh no, we think McSorley ran it aground and he's dead now. And I think to make him and McCarthy and Simmons scapegoats for this, it's a criminal, quite honestly.
You also get some sense, as deep as 530 feet is, this ship is 729 feet long. So even at a slight angle, about 200 feet would be above water even as the bow hit. So the question is, did it break on the surface? Some say it did. Or did it break after it hit the bow on the floor, which is sandstone? And others say that's more likely. I think it's more likely, but we don't know.
As we approached the upside-down stern, I saw 2 hatch covers, and clearly in paint it said 2 and 3. Now those are supposed to be on the bow. They're 150 feet away from the bow. That again proves to me that that ship broke up on the surface. That would never have rained down if she went down nose first.
This ship flexed more than almost any other ship on the Great Lakes. What role that played, it's hard to say, but it makes it more vulnerable in a rough seas to bending or cracking at clearly the wrong time.
There was a tunnel that ran beneath the deck, the length of the ship, and you could see forever down there. I mean, from one end of the ship to the other. I'd get down there and I'd look forward toward the bow, and every 10 feet or so in that tunnel, there'd be like a miner's lamp hanging on the wall. In rough weather, the lamps at the far end in the bow would disappear from view and then reappear. That was frightening to me as a 19-year-old kid, not sure that my ship was sound. And so I remember asking the first mate about that, and he said, oh, don't worry about it. He said, it's like a skyscraper in high winds. It yields a little bit to the forces of the sea, of the lake. And so I accepted his explanation, but, you know, 12 years later when it sank, I wondered if it was supposed to bend quite that much.
And I talked to Dick Orgel, who was the third mate, who he said, hey, that ship really bends a lot in the seas. And McSorley looks at him and goes, yeah, sometimes that scares me too. Like, what is that? You know, I mean, that's a guy that clearly thought the ship would not break, but was not paying attention to all the details that were being told to him. Captain McSorley was in the Weather Bureau report as the #1 ship going through big storms. He went through 5 more gales in 1975 alone. He knew there was issues, and he kept running through every storm. He told the cook, we don't make money at anchor. That means we don't drop the hook, we push on. So it's really hard to pretend that he didn't have a part in that. So we know it was a big wave, and we know that was probably the end of the Fitzgerald.
I tend to go with John Tanner, who said when a big ship like this goes down, it's very rarely one thing. It's a series of dominoes that start falling. It's nature, the storm of the century, as we've talked about. It is the mechanics of the ship itself. It had some built-in flaws. It had some mechanical failures that night. The radar, lighthouse, all that, and some decisions that were well-meaning but backfired badly. So if you combine all that, there you have it.
That's the great mystery. We do not know for sure what sank the Fitzgerald, and we probably will never know.
Hey, Dad, I gotta come clean. I only paid for a Hyundai Tucson.
Enjoy the new car. The Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Get 0% APR for 60 months, plus 0 payments for 90 days on select Hyundai vehicles. Visit your local Hyundai dealer today.
Love slots? The DraftKings Casino app's got you covered. They got tons of slots to choose from, like Cash Eruption, Cleopatra, plus new ones exclusive to DraftKings. All these options, I feel like a slot machine. Winner, winner, early bird dinner.
New players play $5 and get 500 spins on your choice of Cash Eruption slots. Plus, a first-day replay up to 1,000 in credits. The crown is yours.
We hit the jackpot. You mean we?
Sign up for the 43rd Annual Strategic Staffing Solutions Turkey Trot on Woodward Avenue Thanksgiving morning with a 10K, 5K, and 1-mile run. Join one of the nation's largest Thanksgiving races and be part of the magic of America's Thanksgiving Parade presented by Gardner White. Participants of all ages receive a commemorative medal and race shirt and run the S3 Turkey Trot in your favorite holiday costume. Proceeds benefit the Parade Company Foundation. Register today at theparade.org/turkeytrot.
So it's an ordinary pizza.
Oh, no.
It's not ordinary.
No. It's extraordinary.
It's here, the Jets Ultimate Pepperoni, with traditional, bold, and our all-new shredded pepperoni, all on top of the world's thickest, crispiest, cheesy-to-the-edge crust. For a limited time, get this pepperoni masterpiece for $15.99. This isn't pizza, it's Jets.
Officer, you see this Hyundai Santa Fe? Guess how much I paid for it.
Enjoy the new car.
The Hyundai Getaway Sales Event. Get 0% APR for 60 months, plus 0 payments for 90 days on select Hyundai vehicles. Visit your local Hyundai dealer today.
I want to get my children, my daughter, the other kids, to know their grandfather somehow. So this is my way of making sure they know him and remember.
Every November the 10th, we have a memorial service that takes place up here at Whitefish Point. The core of that ceremony is really the ringing of the Fitzgerald bell. That was recovered in 1995, July of 1995, at the request of a number of the Fitzgerald families to have some kind of a memorial that could be brought up from the ship itself. We'll ring it 30 times, 29 times for each sailor on the Fitzgerald, and then a 30th time for all sailors lost on the Great Lakes.
The crew members were very close, but the families didn't know each other at all. In the process of trying to raise the bell and declare their shipwreck a gravesite, they met at least once a year and often more than that. And now they meet every November 10th in Whitefish Point. So they become some of their closest friends.
Definitely. There's been some people I've gotten to know over the years, different family members, and a couple of us have been really close. I'm not going to mention names, but we call ourselves sisters.
It was the last ship to founder on the Great Lakes. 6,000 went down from 1875 to 1975, and not one since November 10th, 1975.
I think the bravado of the captains has diminished a lot, but there were a lot of big technological pushes too. At that time, we had one satellite for doing weather, and the picture was horrible. Now we have GOES satellites in stationary orbit.
The Fitzgerald really has come to represent shipwrecks on the Great Lakes. And so when we remember the crew of the Edmund Fitzgerald, we need to remember those other sailors as well.
When people ask me, do you want to know what happened? Nobody's going to know. There's no way that they can get a definitive answer on what happened. And at this point, it doesn't matter. Nothing would change.
As somebody who sailed on it, as a crew member, I want to know. What if I never find out, and I suspect I never will? I'm okay with that too. Let the men rest in peace. We're at 50 years now, and one could reasonably expect that over time that fascination with it will fade. I'm not sure that that's the case. I think it's the Fitzgerald and the tragedy and the loss of these men and the mystery will keep this alive. I hope it keeps their memories alive.
These people got very little, if anything, from the company. They stuck together, and they're holding their own.
I mean, it's beautiful in here. And just the history of this place is just, it's amazing. I don't think I've ever seen a church with this much stained glass in it before. And it's
Chandeliers are cool.
Just the whole history of this place, how long it's been here, and
very detailed.
And all that remains is the faces and the names of the wives and the sons and the daughters.
Now you got to show off your tattoo, child. We are holding our own. Those are the last words spoken, the last words anybody heard from the Edmund Fitzgerald. And then they just vanished.
Old Michigan steams like a young man's dreams. The islands and bays are for sportsmen. And farther below Lake Ontario takes in what Lake Erie can send her. And the iron boats go as the mariners all know, with the gales of November remembered. In a musty old hall in Detroit, they prayed in the Maritime Sailors' Cathedral. The church bell chimed till it rang 29 times for each man on the Edmund Fitzgerald. The legend lives on from the Chippewa down of the big lake they call Gitchagumi. Superior, they said, never gives up her dead when the gales of November come early.
It's been half a century now, so I guess the pain has subsided, but the memories will never fade.
Love slots? The DraftKings Casino app's got you covered. They got tons of slots to choose from, like Cash Eruption, Cleopatra, plus new ones exclusive to DraftKings. All these options, I feel like a slot machine. Winner, winner, early bird dinner.
All players get a free chance at a daily reward on DraftKings Casino. The crown is yours.
We hit the jackpot.
You mean we? Ain't no we, ain't never gonna be no we. You better go in somewhere. Take yourself out there. Yeah.
I'm attorney Mark Bernstein. Our no-fee guarantee is simple. There's never a fee until we win for you.
To hire the Sam Bernstein law firm, I didn't have to pay anything. Nothing up front. They took care of all my needs and expenses. Everything was covered 100%.
The great thing was I didn't have to pay anything up front, and I didn't have to pay anything out of pocket.
Get our no-fee guarantee and get the Bernstein advantage only at 1-800-CALL-SAM or callsam.com.
Before the curtain rises, before the crowd roars, before the table's even set, they're the men and women making the things we love possible.
That's good.
But when they show up, it's in Carhartt.
Thank you for holding.
Golden Nugget Online Casino, thousands of slots in the mix. Perfect because your scheduled window is 8 a.m. to 6.
New players play $5 and get 500 total spins on a featured game.
Live from downtown Detroit, Local 4 News at 11 starts now.
A close call tonight after a car crashed into a crowded restaurant